whenever we look at a obstacle and we look at it as a learning experience versus oh, everything is against me and woe is me. If we look at it that way, well, yeah, then we're going to stay low forever. But if we look at it like, yeah, that really sucked, like that was a bummer, and you can be sad about it for a while, yeah, what can I learn from this? And next time such and such an obstacle comes up, I'm like, okay, how did I handle this last time? What can I do differently? And, maybe you realize, that was not a rejection or um, a negative. It was a redirection. And what would have been down that path wasn't right for me. Just taking a few minutes, like 5, 10 minutes, shut everything down and just see the thoughts that come into your mind. Write them all down, negative, positive, whatever it is. And then you can see kind of the subconscious programs that are happening within your mind. Then you have to look at it and say, well, how could this be true? And look at, these are the reasons why it could be true. How could this be not true? And you start to realize, like, the negative thoughts that I'm having, they're really not true. They're not in alignment with who I really am. So that's the first way that you really disconnect with yourself is by negative self-talk. So a lot of times we catch our thoughts and we think, and I kind of encourage people to think, well, would I talk to someone else that way? Would I speak to my best friend or my partner or my brother, sister, whoever, in the way that I just spoke to myself? So that self-trust comes when we treat ourselves right, we speak positively to ourselves, and we connect with what is really authentically what we should be taking action on and doing versus the negative side of it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Art of the Great podcast. My name is Daniel Lugo. I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of having you, Dr. Carla Caturia. And I think it's going to be a great podcast that we're going to like. As you know, the theme of the podcast is for you to learn from other people's storms, as what I like to call them, and how they overcame them. So, Carla, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Dr. Carla Caturia, and Daniel, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm an elite mental performance coach. So I coach teens, tweens, young adults, and families. And just a little bit about me, I was an educator for about 20 years, a teacher, assistant principal, a college professor, and I've now started my own business and I do this full time. And I really appreciate you having me here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. And, wow, my mom is a teacher. She has been a teacher for like 30 years or more.
Amazing.
Eh,
What does she teach?
Math. So I'm
Oh,
a little bit of a math
yeah.
boy.
Oh, good for you, good for you. That's a great skill. You need it. That's
And
awesome.
I
I
think
love that.
no, it is awesome. And I think your activity as a coach will be helpful to many out here. And with that, I want to
And
get started with
yeah,
the first question.
absolutely.
Okay, so Dr. Carla, on this show, we believe that the future storms aren't always visible from the outside. At 14, you were earning straight A's, dancing, and competing in varsity sports, looking completely successful. But underneath that surface, what did your personal gray area look like? And when did you realize that
Yeah.
storm was brewing?
And yes, absolutely. So I didn't realize this till probably my 30s and 40s. So when I was a teenager, like you said, good grades, had a nice family, played all the sports, did dance, all the activities, had a ton of friends. Like you would have never known there was a concern. But underneath it, like you were saying, that storm was really my emotions. So I wasn't sure what to do with big emotions, how to handle them, how to manage them, how to move through them. I just didn't know that I could be in control of what I was thinking and feeling. And like I said, I didn't notice this till later in life. And the reason I became a coach is because I started getting coaches and I was like, oh man, this actually works. I'm able to handle my emotions, stay calm, um, you know, and that was like a game changer for me in shifting my literally my whole life. So yeah, that was all brewing underneath the surface throughout my teens and my 20s, even my 30s as well. Yeah.
Incredible. And so, what was specifically, if you want to express this, you don't have to. What did you personally go through in that when you were a teenager and you realized, I need to control this and look out for coaches?
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, I then obviously became a college student and met my ex-husband and, lived a life married and did all the things. And I didn't realize it at that point. I had it kind of engaged in a codependent relationship. And, there was a lot of emotions and there was a lot of good. And then there was a lot of arguing and there was a lot of, all turmoil, let's say, and chaos. And I didn't really realize that when we were married. I was in my 20s and I was in my 30s. And then everything started to shift. I was a teacher, then I became a principal. And I was kind of questioning, like, who am I? And how do I want to show up and who do I want to be? And is this all there is for me? Is there something more? So it was kind of like a personal and a professional shift that kind of over time happened. And then it got to the point where it became so painful in the relationship and in the career that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I didn't feel like I was having an impact. And we weren't getting along. So it all kind of came to a head around the same time in my late 30s. And then, then I left my career, left my marriage, and it all. So it wasn't like a thing that just happened overnight. Think it was kind of the awareness from the situations I was putting myself in, how I was treating myself, and how I was maybe not expecting others to treat me to a certain level. And then through getting coaches, I started to see the light per se and notice there was a different way to live. Yeah. Yeah.
So from what I'm grabbing, it was a situation where you didn't know what the future looked like, and you didn't feel like you were fulfilling a purpose that you know you had deep inside. And I think that's something that happens to all of us. And for me, it was medical issues that I'm still going through them, but I I understand that because I feel the same. Like, am I fulfilling the right purpose? Am I doing the right thing? And I think that is something that people can learn from. And I hope that today in this episode that not only you can help us guide us through that, but the person listening to this episode can learn because it's one thing to learn something, but there's another thing by doing it. That's when you are fulfilling the knowledge. Because knowledge without putting in the work is nothing. It's just knowledge.
Amazing. You said it yourself. And you're not done with your journey, and neither am I. So, because for people listening, because we might have made a shift, that's amazing. We made a shift, yet we're not done yet. So, it's all about that commitment to yourself. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
completely right. And you have noted that you learn how to succeed long before you learn how to navigate stress, self-doubt, and uncertainty. When that internal pressure cooker finally hits its limit, how do you navigate that breaking point? And what was the turning point that allowed you to rebuild?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of it is learning patience. So knowing that it's not going to happen all overnight, that eh, I'm on the right path, trusting myself that, excuse me, that I'm making the right decisions, that I'm moving in the right direction. And for me, on top of all of that, on top of patience, was really my faith. So I became really patient and waiting without complaining and just realizing, like, I might not be where I want to be, but I'm not where I was before. So I'm here, like, kind of in the middle in transition. And I feel like we live our life in the middle quite often. We might win an award or get a new job or something exciting happens and you're at the top. And then you might be depressed and sad and have certain issues and you're at the bottom. But we kind of live our life in the middle. So for me, it was patience, like really learning to be patient and reconnecting with my faith and just having that belief in myself and the higher power that you know, today might be an amazing day. Today might have its pitfalls, but ultimately, like, if I just keep taking action and in taking inspired action, that I will then move into one, who I'm authentically meant to be, and two, into my kind of next identity, into a more powerful version of myself. Yeah.
I really like that because patience is a key thing for everything that we do. One quote that I heard from another podcast was like, "A winner is just a loser that trying one more time."
Yes.
So
Yep.
I really like that because it goes with what you're saying is the patience of being in the gray area. Keep trying, keep going. And when you succeed, know that you're going to fall again, but you have to keep trying. It's not a single path. It's not that you go through all ups and it's just up from there on. No, you're going to go down again. But if we realize that that down is higher than when we were before, I think that's what you said. We're going to be really incredible because even though we are indeed falling or we fell, we are higher than before. So we just have to continue learning. And it's in the falls. That's why the theme of the podcast is when we learn the most, in my belief. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's exactly what I tell my clients, like my kids, when I start working with them, because initially we work together, they feel really motivated, they get energized, and it's really easy to get someone started, but it's a lot harder to keep someone going and keep them learning and keep them growing because they'll have their times where we're on a call and they start crying or they're upset or things aren't going their way, and it could be like that for a period of time. But to your point, they're going to learn to, you know, move through their emotions quicker, or not stay in that low point for as long, or realize they needed to be in that low point to learn something. So whenever we look at a obstacle and we look at it as a learning experience versus a, oh, everything is against me and woe is me. If we look at it that way, well, yeah, then we're going to stay low forever. But if we look at it like, yeah, that really sucked. Like that was a bummer. And you can be sad about it for a while, like I'm really disappointed. Yeah. What can I learn from this? And next time such and such an obstacle comes up, I'm like, okay, how did I handle this last time? What can I do differently? And, maybe you realize, that was not a rejection or a negative. It was a redirection. And what would have been down that path wasn't right for me. Yeah.
I like that. And I wanted to go into your personal coaching side. So you coined the
Hmm.
terms that success without sales cycle. For the young adults and teenagers listening right now who are tying 100% of their identity and worth to their grades, performance, or external achievements, how do they recognize that they are trapped in this cycle before it leads to total burnout?
Yeah. So success without self really is like you feel good when you achieve, when you win an award, when you get a good grade, when you get the part at the play, whatever it is. But when you make a mistake or you don't get what you want, then it's like as if you are a failure. So you are basically getting to the point where you define yourself by what you have achieved, not by who you are. And then you put a lot of pressure on yourself, even if your parents are telling you, it's okay, don't worry, you got to be, or you'll get the part next year, that kind of thing. You just are kind of imposing this perfectionism or overthinking or comparison, and it just leads to you having a lot of anxiety. And you might even be more and more successful, yet you're trusting yourself less and less. You are always reaching out to see, what should I do? Or you start spiraling when one little mistake happens, or, you just kind of have this overwhelm, or maybe you avoid things and you just procrastinate, even though you can do it. So these kind of emotions come up, and that's when you become completely like dysregulated. Either you withdraw and you're kind of not engaging in life, or you're still going strong, but you've filled up your schedule so much that you are just so busy that you don't let yourself feel. So it's kind of like you're avoiding the deeper issues underneath the pressure, anxiety, overwhelm. And what I do with kids is get them to feel again, know what is underneath those those kind of thoughts and beliefs, kind of getting to the root cause of why they're feeling a certain way and thinking and behaving a certain way, so that they then can have success with self. So it's still going to be successful and do all their activities in school and all that. Yet, how can I feel connected to who I authentically am while I'm still doing this?
And I like that. And I want to add something to that because, one of the tools that I have to use to spread this message around the world is social media. And I think social media adds to that. You look at pictures of someone, I don't know, fishing a fish that you never caught, for example, or winning a tournament that you never won. It adds to the pressure of what you're feeling, of feeling like a failure and you're not. We do fail. That's an unfortunate thing because I don't like to fail, right? But life is a failure sport. I really heard I like baseball, and this baseball player said that baseball is a failure sport. It, you are bound to fail. So if you hit 3 out of 10 times, that means you're a 300 hitter. Guess what? You're in the Hall of Fame with that numbers,
Hmm.
and that's failing
Hmm.
7 times out of 10. So we
Hmm.
have to fail in order to succeed. And it goes back to the quote: a winner
Hmm.
is just a loser who tried one more time.
Hmm.
And it's just
Hmm.
about having patience and realizing that our failures is what builds our character into the next phase, into what we are meant to be. If we didn't go through our storms, we would have never in our life become the person that we are today. I'm going to ask you a question. If you were
Mm.
to go back and eliminate all the hard things that you had to go through to be here today, would you?
Yeah, no, not at all. To your point, who would I be? I wouldn't be resilient. I wouldn't be resourceful. I wouldn't have learned anything. So it's quite often, and I will connect this to parents just because I see this quite often, is your child struggling. They're overwhelmed. They don't know how to problem solve. They can't figure this out. And a lot of parents will come in and rescue them and rob them the opportunity of figuring out themselves. So I, as a teen, had that situation with my parents as well. They would not always, but quite often rescue me. It was as soon as I felt uncomfortability, they would help me feel comfortable. And so I think um, I would go back and I would actually want to safe fail more often. So, if I get an F on the test and I didn't study or I didn't time manage right or whatever the situation was, then I got the consequence of the grade. And my parent, that happened to me sometimes. So, no, I wouldn't take away the obstacles. I would probably wish I had someone telling me what I could learn from those obstacles. And frankly, my parents might have told me that and I just wasn't listening. I don't know. But I think no, I think failure is maybe not always fun, yet i- it's necessary. And I think it's what builds who you are. I mean, every person you see, you spoke about social media, on social media that is actually legit didn't create that product or do that thing that they're doing overnight. It took them 10 other products that failed in order to find the one that worked. And with teenagers and even myself included, it's you have to realize like social media is people showing you what they want to show you. So the fish that they caught on that reel that you saw, how long were they? How many times? How many months did they fish before they caught that one fish? Didn't I mean,
How much did they spend?
right. So, and they're not showing you the times that they missed the fish or they went out for days and didn't catch anything. And so we have to also be mindful that social media is real, but like to an extent, it's what people want to show us. So I think that it is a valuable tool. I use it myself because I try to give out as much value and information and help to people as possible. Yet I realize like that it comes with its limitations as well. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So when someone is in the thick of a life storm, their self trust is often shattered. Why do you believe self trust is a more critical skill for sustainable success than raw talent, motivation, or high grades? How do we start rebuilding it from zero?
Yeah. So I think when we have a negative thought, negative emotion, something goes wrong in our life, something we don't like, I believe we create our own reality. So no one gets up in the morning and says, I want to have a terrible day and then do terrible things, obviously. But this is our subconscious. So whenever we have this type of life where we're kind of in the negative zone, it's because we've subconsciously created that. And we've also, to your question, disconnected from our true self. So, you know, it might be authentic for you to do to go fishing. But if you are, I just brought up the fishing because you brought it up. But if you, or even, I mean, we can even look at baseball because I work with a lot of athletes. So if a lot of athletes will get up, they'll strike out, and then like the rest of the game, they just can't get a hit, and they're just stuck in their head, and they're spiraling, and they're focusing on the fact that they struck out the first at bat, and it's all about shifting your mindset and connecting with yourself. So it's one, where you focus. Two, are you being authentic with yourself, and are you creating the reality you want? And if you aren't, you have to shift how you're thinking and really how you're talking to yourself. So that's the first way that you really disconnect with yourself, is by negative self-talk. So a lot of times we catch our thoughts and we think, and I kind of encourage people to think, well, would I talk to someone else that way? Would I speak to my best friend or my partner or my brother, sister, whoever, in the way that I just spoke to myself? So that self trust comes when we treat ourselves right, we speak positively to ourselves, and we connect with what is really authentically what we should be taking action on and doing, versus um, the negative side of things. So yeah, self-trust is very important, very important.
And what has been one tool that has worked for the many trainees or someone that you train? I don't know, but the word that
Yeah,
came to mind at the moment. But
yeah,
what did it help them to change from having negative thoughts to absolutely just positive thoughts and increasing that self trust? Now, what was that tool?
yeah. So basically, we are never going to be having positive thoughts all day. We understand that. So you're going to have, let's say you start off with living a life where you're not really having that many powerful thoughts. Maybe you have an hour or two a day where you're in that powerful zone. So the goal is to get to where you have more powerful thoughts than you don't. So living a life of more positivity, right? So we're never going to get rid of it. But one thing I would start with was just taking a few minutes, like 5, 10 minutes, shut everything down and just see the thoughts that come into your mind. Write them all down, negative, positive, whatever it is. And then you can see kind of the subconscious programs that are happening within your mind. Then you have to look at it and say, well, how could this be true? And look at, these are the reasons why it could be true. How could this be not true? And you start to realize, like, the negative thoughts that I'm having, they're really not true. They're not in alignment with who I really am. That's fear, that's doubt, that's all that getting in the way. And then from that list, what I would do is I would take the um, negative thoughts and turn them into positive affirmations. And you start there with the I am statements. But at that moment, it's not like you're going to just believe those statements because you wrote them down and said, I am happy, I am powerful, I am beautiful, whatever they are. You have to start building evidence for yourself. So then the next step is to really, if you think I am beautiful, then you have to, look at yourself in the mirror and say I'm beautiful. And then, oh, look at my hair looks so good today. I just got, just did my makeup, or, oh, I worked out. I feel so healthy now. And like, it makes my skin glow, whatever it is, building that evidence. And then you start to, but you have to, and like you said earlier, you have to do this consistently. You have to be committed to it. It's work. And then before you know it, you do this for a week, a month, 2 months, and so on and so forth. Then every time you start to look in the mirror, it isn't a habit anymore. It isn't a routine anymore. You just automatically look and you're like, yeah, I'm awesome. I'm beautiful. And you don't think the other thoughts as much anymore. So you're basically replacing and rewiring your subconscious.
I like that. And I hope that the people listening to the podcast can grab this and put it into work in their lives. And to help people navigate this moment that we're talking about, you develop the right framework: resilience,
Mm.
identity, self confidence, and emotional intelligence. When a young leader is facing an immediate hardship or a major setback, what is the very first step they need to take using this model to anchor themselves?
Yeah, I think it comes down to emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is this first step. You eventually will build more confidence, more resiliency, and step into that next identity, because RISE stands for resiliency, identity, self confidence, and emotional intelligence. But the emotional intelligence is to start to, and it's managing your emotions. It's allowing all of your emotions. You should feel all the things you feel. We're not saying to shove them down or only be positive, because if you're just being positive, it's kind of like false positive. You're forcing yourself to be positive. It's more of, you know, kind of knowing, why you're feeling a certain way, knowing that you can control your thoughts and emotions, and really getting all the tools and skills around, regulating your state and your emotions. That's the first thing. Then once you are kind of in a more stable place and, uh, can be more grounded and calm at the way you look at things, then you can start building, on top of that.
I like that because, emotional intelligence is the one thing that's going to get you over the line. Self confidence, everything is comes from there. So if you look, it is the root for everything that you do, right? For me, during my medical issues and everything, emotional intelligence was the thing that got me over the line. People tell me you are so powerful. I thank you, but I had to, use my emotions and control them, because if I didn't, everything went downwards. If I went through the medical issue and I went to the hospital, there was one time that I stayed up for a month in the hospital. If I didn't control myself, like my emotional intelligence, and say to myself, this is all going to come to an end, right? Everything happens for a reason. You are strong. You can do this. This, I wouldn't have gone after this the same way that I did, because I attacked it. I started to write my book. I went to the more like to the gym, which I basically do every single day, right? But I went to the gym again. It's not that I'm losing faith in the purpose that I'm doing, right? So you have to control that emotional intelligence before you can do everything else. Because if you don't control that, confidence is not going to come in. The resilience doesn't come in. And identity, trust me, doesn't come. You have to control that emotional intelligence, because you're going to lose everything if you don't. So that's a really important point, and I'm glad that you talked about it.
Yeah, and Daniel, I'm very proud of you, because it is not easy to do what you just said. It oftentimes is very easy to fall into the like, oh, I'm sick, or oh, this happened, and you didn't let it get you down. It's a fact of life. It's happening to you. But you realize it's only temporary, and I'm stronger than this. And so, congratulations on, you know, kind of like taking the bull by the horns and just taking your control of your life and saying, unfortunately, this is happening to me right now, but I got this and I'm going to handle this. So awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of work. It's not only me. Like you talk about faith, that happened to me as well. So if there's one thing that I can tell the audience listening in, if you want to try something and see for yourself, the faith, grab the Bible. I think that's for me my faith, the anchor. Specifically for me, the Book of Job was the for me the answer at the time, right? But the whole Bible is great. But for me, faith is what took me there. My family there also took a huge role into me becoming the person that I am today. So you have to realize that as well. It's not only you controlling your emotions, your emotional intelligence, but also it comes from the people that surround you and how they support you and help you become the person that you're meant to be. I think that's an important part as well that I also wanted to mention. And you often say that behavior is information. For parents listening in, or even for young adults trying to understand their own anxiety and perfectionism, how can they start looking underneath the behavior to see what the storm is actually trying to teach them?
Yeah, good point. Because it's very easy, being a parent to be frustrated, be tired, be exhausted. So I want to first say for parents, it's not an easy job. And it's very difficult to raise a teenager. They get an attitude, they shut the door, they get, you get into arguments. So there's a lot of emotions flowing. And I think for parents, the first step is them handling their own emotions and taking care of themselves. Because it's kind of like on the airplane, they say grab your mask first and then help others. And so often as parents are very selfless and they want to take care of their kids first. And it comes down to first taking care of themselves, then supporting their kids. And to see underneath it, it takes for you to be grounded in order for you to realize like the reason why my child is maybe not wanting to talk to me or frustrated or always in a bad mood or whatever the thing is they're protecting something underneath that. So you might not know what that thing is, but you do know that there's something going on underneath the resistance. And the the way to kind of help them figure that out is one, you can like with someone like me, that's what I do with kids, and two, how you approach them as a parent. And just really being open to listening to them, letting them be heard, and really validating their emotions. Just hey, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. Um, what would you like from me? Is there something I can do to help? And just listening and saying something like that, they feel heard. You heard that you feel their emotion, and little by little, um, they begin to open up, and you kind of can see what is underneath the kind of protection or the wall that they're putting up with you in that resistance.
I like that. I like that because as parents, my parents are wonderful and they have done everything. And, my mom is the type of mom that puts herself in front first. She's the first over the line. She has always been there for me. And I think you mentioned an important point. You have to take care of yourself first. And she did that too. But you have to take care of yourself first, and then you can take care of others. Because if you are not in the right mindset, in health wise or anything mentally wise, you cannot help anybody. You need to help yourself first before helping others. I think that's an important point that you said there. And if you could sit down with that 14-year-old version of yourself, the girl who was performing at the highest level but losing her sense of self in the process, what would you tell her about how to survive and ultimately thrive through that storm?
Yeah, I think I would start with just something as simple like it's okay to feel. So I think we as humans have these core programs that we tell ourselves, I'm not enough. I'm uh, just anything like something negative about ourselves, that negative self talk. So I didn't know that that was actually happening to me subconsciously. So I just knew it didn't feel good. Right. And if such and such a thing happened, I didn't feel good and I didn't want to feel it. So then I would either be busy or go and distract myself, or I had coping mechanisms that I was using. Nothing negative per se, but I would not address what I was feeling. It was like I would just push it down and go and do my homework, push it down, go to practice, push it down, go hang out with my family, whatever that was. And I think what I would like to tell myself and what I would be open to telling other teens is to like it's okay to feel these things and it's okay to delve into them. And because you spend time on those negative emotions doesn't mean that you're going to feel them forever, but you kind of have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So it's not comfortable to like look at like I don't just anything like anger or sadness or I don't want to be in that zone. I don't think about that. Obviously, yet if you don't become comfortable with it, you're going to be 30 and 40 and still having those same emotions and not sure what to do and be uncomfortable, 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 and then wake up one day and say, like, what am I doing? So I think it would be to be uncomfortable with, be comfortable with the uncomfortable, and you just have to do that over and over again until you kind of really accept yourself fully. Yeah.
I like that. And this is a great way to the podcast. And Dr. Carla, where can people find you and follow you for more?
Yeah. Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram, friend me on Facebook. I'm on social media. I have a YouTube page. So just, a bunch of free resources. I actually created my first course. So that's free right now. You can grab the first module and yeah, just, message me, reach out or follow me and I'm happy to support.
Nice. So I will leave the link for those down in the description so they can go there and visit her, do the free course, right? It doesn't cost you anything and you can help yourself become better. And, before we end the podcast, as of right now, Venezuela is right now going through a catastrophe. They have gone through a disaster and I wanted to help them by leaving down in the description a link for so that you can donate. It's a link that I also have donated, so it's not a link that I have not put my money into. So I'm gonna leave that in the description there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Kala, for coming in and joining the podcast, spreading the message. And I think a lot of helpful things come out of the podcast. I learned a lot. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with the people that you love. As always, thank you so much. May God bless you all. Take care.